seems like when we're thinking about sort of legacies for Reconstruction and like examples that are taken from the past or how we justify its like layer of significance, it's that political story that people talk about.
Right.
The economic side of Reconstruction tends to get lost.
Well, there was in the 70s and 80s a big literature on the origins of sharecropping, and people try, but now I think people have gotten exhausted by that. We've kind of reached a point, okay, they got sharecropping, so here it is, you know. But yeah, of course, that's what's still living. Today, 40 acres and a mule is not getting you very far, right? We're in a different economy. We're a different world. But the issues of equal citizenship, of voting rights, of privileges, you know, of what is this nation? Who is a member? Hey, that's on the newspaper every day. So Reconstruction issues, as I've said at the very beginning of this course, are still living today. That's why it's important to know about this.
I wonder if you have a sense, though, of like after these generations of scholarly labor to overturn sort of standard views of Reconstruction circa 1950, like has that battle been won? Or
oh yeah, in the academy it's been won.
Yeah. In the rest of the world. Like I remember when I was in 2001 in my U.S. history course, which was a very good U.S. history course in high school, it was still presented to me as there was a lot of controversy around Reconstruction and there had been recent changes.
I wonder what textbook they were using, because I think every major...
Well, it's from someone who went to grad school in the 70s.
All right.
So you got...
But
like,
I think every textbook today gives my view of Reconstruction, or at least what I would consider an up-to-date view of Reconstruction. I don't think you're going to find Dunning around in the textbooks. Out in the larger world, that's not necessarily the case. I think, you know, there's still a lot of misunderstanding of Reconstruction, and the old, just simplistic heroes and villains, Andrew Johnson defending the Constitution. The radical Republicans are more praised now than they used to be. The carpetbaggers, nobody's saying anything good about them. I don't think the Klan is romanticized like it was back in the days of Woodrow Wilson and Birth of a Nation. But certainly the idea of just, there was all this corruption, all this misgovernment, it was all a big mistake, thank God we got past it. That's, if people hear about Reconstruction, that's still a kind of image that I think comes to mind.
And maybe this is a good place to end, but I think that one reason too why, the bigger problem might be not so much that people have myths about Reconstruction, but that they just don't care about it at all. And
well, that's true of everything, unfortunately, in our history.
But it's like, it's so striking in this class, right? Because people care about the 1850s, they care about the Lincoln-Douglas debates, they care about the Civil War. Like those are movies that people can go watch. And I think part of the reason is that it's hard to tell an optimistic story about Reconstruction. And I just wonder, as someone who spent so much of their career on this subject, like, how you can do it without just becoming horribly depressed.
Well, it is depressing, but long ago, a graduate student said to me back in the 90s, I gave your book on Reconstruction to my grandfather, who's very interested in history, lives in the South, and he read it and he said it made him really feel uplifted. And I kind of said, well, how in the world is that possible? It's a story of tragedy, of violence, of people being oppressed, you know. And he said, well, it made him feel optimistic because it proves the truth will eventually come out. No matter how much they hide the truth, it'll come out. Now, I'm not saying that I am the truth with a capital T, but I think what we think today about Reconstruction is a lot more true than what people used to think. And if you believe that history has a value, knowledge of history has a value in a democracy, then at least we can maybe think that if people know about Reconstruction, it will help them think about our own society. But I'm inspired by the struggle itself, that's all, by the efforts of these people, these former slaves with nothing, stepping onto the stage of history, you know, and trying to create something for themselves and their family and their nation. And the radical Republicans, I think, despite their limitations on the gender issue, they're tremendously inspiring. We could use some of them around today, you know. I think one can maybe find inspiration in the people at the time, even if their ultimate aims were thwarted then. So I just happen to be an optimistic kind of person. Maybe that's what it is, you know. But a lot of the story is pretty depressing. There's no question about that.